I received that text from Amanda on a Tuesday evening. 3 years together, sharing an apartment car, and dreams of our future suddenly thrown into limbo with her words, "I need space and time to think." I respected her wishes, completely promising to give her the 2 weeks she asked for. Then, day 3 happened. I was scrolling through social media when I saw it. Vacation photos with her ex, in the destination we had been saving for. My heart stopped. Before I continue, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever experienced betrayal like this. Trust me, how I handled it will surprise you. Amanda and I met at my best friend Kyle's birthday party 3 years ago. It was one of those perfect autumn nights in Chicago with string lights illuminating the rooftop bar and laughter floating above the city noise. Kyle introduced us with a casual, "You two should definitely talk," and walked away before we could protest. But there was no need for protest. The moment Amanda smiled and extended her hand, something clicked between us. She was wearing a simple blue dress that matched her eyes, and her laugh was infectious enough to make even my terrible jokes seem funny. We discovered we both loved hiking and cooking, though she admitted later she had exaggerated her culinary skills to impress me. That night we talked until the bar closed, exchanging phone numbers with the promise to meet again soon. What struck me most about Amanda was her charisma. She had this ability to light up every room she entered. People naturally gravitated toward her warmth and energy. Our early dating phase was magical. We took weekend trips to Michigan, cooking elaborate dinners together in my tiny kitchen and gradually introducing each other to our families. My mom immediately adored her, and her father, though initially skeptical of my career in marketing, warmed up after our third meeting. After a year of dating, we decided to move in together. We found a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Chicago, close enough to both our workplaces that we could sometimes meet for lunch. The second bedroom became our shared office space, where Amanda would grade papers for her 5th grade class, and I would work on freelance projects. For our 2-year anniversary, I surprised her with a car. Nothing fancy, just a reliable used Honda Civic that would make her commute to the suburban school where she taught much easier. She had been struggling with public transportation, often arriving home exhausted. The car was in my name because Amanda had credit issues from student loans, but we both considered it hers. The joy on her face when I handed her the keys still ranked among my favorite memories. At least until everything changed. Our life together had a comfortable rhythm. Sunday brunches at the corner cafe. Friday movie nights, where we alternated who got to pick the film, and planning for a future that seemed certain. Amanda had a talent for making spaces feel like home. She filled our apartment with plants-framed photos of our adventures, and little touches that reflected both our personalities. The bookshelf in our living room was a perfect blend of her historical fiction and my science books. I remember thinking how the merging of our lives seemed so seamless, so right. The first signs of trouble began about 3 months before the space request. It started subtly, with Amanda becoming increasingly distant and distracted. Our conversations that once flowed effortlessly became stilted with long silences and short answers. She began checking her phone, constantly stepping into another room to take calls. When I asked who was calling her, answers were vague. Just work stuff, or just catching up with friends. She started mentioning new work friends that I somehow never got to meet despite my expressed interest. Richard from the art department. Melissa from administration. Names that populated her stories, but never materialized into real people in our social circle. Then came the late nights out with vague explanations about teacher meetings or happy hours that apparently never ended before 11 in the evening. The physical aspect of our relationship changed too. Amanda, who had always been affectionate and passionate, began avoiding intimacy. She would go to bed before me, claiming exhaustion, or stay up late grading papers until she knew I would be asleep. The distance between us in our king-sized bed felt like miles. As the weeks passed, my suspicions grew, accompanied by a constant knot of anxiety in my stomach. I noticed changes in how she dressed, wearing outfits I had never seen before when heading out with her colleagues. Her mood swings became more pronounced. Some days, she would be almost like her old self, attentive and loving. Other days, she barely acknowledged my presence. I tried bringing up these changes several times. The first conversation happened after a dinner where she had been texting throughout the meal. I asked her directly if something was wrong, if there was something bothering her about our relationship. Her response was defensive. "You are being paranoid, Corey. I have a life outside of this relationship, you know." The second time, after she canceled our weekend getaway last minute, citing work obligations, only for me to see social media posts of her out with friends, her explanation shifted. "I am just stressed at work. The kids are preparing for standardized tests. I need more independence sometimes." Each conversation ended with me feeling guilty for questioning her, despite the alarm bells ringing in my head. I wanted to trust her. 3 years of building a life together made me want to believe her explanations, even as my gut feeling told me something was seriously off. I started second-guessing myself. Maybe I was being too needy. Maybe her job really was more stressful than I understood. Maybe this was just a phase all long-term relationships go through. The space conversation happened on a Friday evening. I had come home early, planning to surprise Amanda with dinner from her favorite Thai restaurant. I had set the table, opened a bottle of wine, and was waiting when she walked through the door at 7:30, looking surprised to see me there. "We need to talk," she said before even taking off her coat. She sat across from me, hands folded on the table, eyes not quite meeting mine. "I need some space, Corey. Time to clear my head and think about what I really want." Her voice was steady, like she had rehearsed this speech. "I need 2 weeks. No contact. I am going to stay with my sister. I will take some personal things, but leave most of my stuff here. This does not mean we are breaking up. I just need to figure some things out on my own." The pain was immediate and intense, like someone had punched me in the chest. But beneath the pain was a desire to respect her, needs to be the understanding boyfriend who would give her the space to work through whatever was troubling her. "If that is what you need," I said, trying to keep my voice from cracking, "take the time you need. I will be here when you are ready to talk." She packed a suitcase that night, taking enough clothes for what seemed like more than 2 weeks, but I did not comment. Before she left, there was an awkward hug and she whispered, "Thank you for understanding." The door closed behind her, and I sat alone in our apartment next to the untouched Thai food, wondering what had gone so wrong. 3 days into the space period, I was mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, trying to distract myself from the emptiness of our apartment. That is when I saw it. Our mutual friend Taylor had posted a story showing a group of people at O'Hare Airport. In the background, partially obscured but unmistakable, was Amanda rolling a suitcase toward a departure gate. My heart raced as I began investigating further. I clicked on other mutual friends' profiles. Sam, who taught at the same school as Amanda, had posted a beach photo tagged at Paradise Resort in Cancun. And there in the comments was a sunglasses emoji from Amanda's account. After an hour of searching, I found the devastating photo. It was on Jason's profile. Jason, her ex-boyfriend from before we met. Jason, who she had claimed was completely out of her life. The photo showed them together at a beachfront bar, her arm around his waist, both smiling broadly at the camera. The caption read, "Reconnecting in Paradise." The location tag was for a resort in Cancun, a place Amanda and I had been saving to visit together for our 4th anniversary. As I stared at the photo, details began clicking into place with sickening clarity. She had not gone to her sister's for space. She had flown to Cancun with her ex-boyfriend, using the space excuse to cover her tracks. Based on the timestamps of the photos, she had left for this trip immediately after walking out of our apartment. The space request was nothing but a convenient lie. I dug deeper, scrolling back through Jason's feed, and discovered comments from Amanda dating back months. Playful, flirtatious exchanges that clearly indicated ongoing communication. This trip had not been a spontaneous decision. A post from 3 weeks earlier showed Jason talking about Mexico preparations, with Amanda commenting, "Cannot wait." The physical impact of this discovery was immediate. My stomach lurched, and I barely made it to the bathroom before getting sick. For the next 2 days, I could not eat or sleep. I lay awake, replaying conversations, looking for signs I had missed, wondering how long the deception had been going on. Every memory now felt tainted, Had she been thinking of him during our anniversary dinner last month? When she said she loved me each night before bed, was she wishing I was someone else? The relationship I had treasured suddenly seemed like an elaborate lie, a performance she had maintained while her heart was elsewhere. The emotions came in waves. First, crushing heartbreak that left me struggling to breathe. Then, humiliation at being so thoroughly deceived. Finally, anger began to simmer beneath the surface, providing the first hint of energy after days of emotional paralysis. I needed answers beyond what social media could provide. I reached out to Kyle, the friend who had introduced us. His long pause after I described what I had discovered told me everything before he even spoke. Look, Corey, I was not sure if I should tell you this, but since you already know about the trip, Jason never really left the picture completely. I saw them having coffee together a few months ago. I asked Amanda about it, and she swore it was innocent, that they were just friends catching up. She begged me not to mention it to you, said it would only make you unnecessarily jealous. The betrayal expanded beyond just Amanda. My own friends had kept secrets from me, choosing their loyalty to her over honesty with me. As I spoke with more people in our circle, a clearer picture emerged. Several friends admitted they knew she had maintained contact with Jason throughout our relationship. Two confirmed they had seen them together at times when Amanda had told me she was elsewhere. I was the only one who had not seen the truth. The only one who had been fully invested in what now appeared to be a one-sided relationship. My investigation did not stop there. In a moment of desperation or clarity, I looked through old emails on our shared computer. Amanda had forgotten to log out of her account, and there they were. Dozens of exchanges with Jason over the past year. Messages planning the Cancun trip while she told me she was saving for our future. Emails where she confided in him about problems in our relationship, sharing private details that should have remained between us. Most painful were the messages where she compared us. The ways Jason understood her better. Most painful were the messages. Hazazau and Das. Private. Das. Most painful were the messages, the chemistry they still shared. Reading her words, it became clear that I had been a placeholder, a safe option, while she secretly maintained her connection with the man she truly wanted. There were financial betrayals, too. Checking our joint savings account, I discovered withdrawals I had not authorized. Funds we had been putting aside for our future had been partially depleted. $3,000 gone coincidentally, around the time the Cancun tickets would have been purchased. The depth of the deception was staggering. This was not a momentary lapse in judgment or a recent reconnection. This was sustained, calculated deception that spanned much of our relationship. Each new discovery was another wound, another reason to question not just Amanda's love for me but my own judgment and perception of reality. As I sat surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal, I realized I was facing the most painful question of all. How should I respond when she returned? The answer would define not just the end of our relationship, but what kind of person I was. End of Len As.com 6 would be moving forward. My first impulse was to confront Amanda immediately. To call her in Cancun and unleash all my hurt and anger. To expose her lies to everyone we knew. The rage that followed my discovery felt all-consuming, like a physical entity, taking up space in our apartment alongside me. I spent one dark night cycling through scenarios. I imagined changing the locks, throwing her belongings onto the street, publicly shaming her on social media. I fantasized about the look on her face when she realized I knew everything. These vengeful thoughts provided momentary satisfaction but left a bitter aftertaste. After 24 sleepless hours, I called my cousin Mark, who had been through a painful divorce years earlier. He listened without interruption as I poured out the whole story, my voice breaking several times despite my efforts to remain composed. "Corey," he said when I finally fell silent, "you have every right to be angry. What she did was inexcusable. But how you respond now is not about her. It is about you. About what kind of man you want to be." His words cut through the fog of my anger. He was right. I could choose to match deception with destruction, or I could choose something that preserved my self-respect and dignity. The path forward began to take shape in my mind. I would protect myself legally and financially, set clear boundaries, and do it all above board. The next morning, I consulted with a lawyer to understand my rights and options. I learned that since the apartment lease was solely in my name, I had the legal right to change the locks, provided I did not dispose of her property, and made arrangements for her to retrieve her belongings. The car, though used exclusively by Amanda, was legally mine. The title was in my name, and I had made every payment. I could legally sell it, though the lawyer advised documenting everything carefully. Armed with this knowledge, I created a plan. Not for revenge, but for self-protection and a clean break. I contacted our landlord, explained the situation, and received permission to change the locks. I researched the car's value and listed it with a reputable dealer, making sure to document the ownership with photographs of the title and registration. Over the next week, I carefully packed Amanda's belongings. I did not damage anything or throw items away in anger. I treated her things with more respect than she had shown our relationship. I rented a secure storage unit for 1 month and moved all her possessions there, keeping detailed inventories and photographs of everything. I used part of the money from selling her car to pay for the storage unit and to settle our joint credit card, which had accumulated a significant balance from her spending. With each practical step, I felt a small measure of power returning. Not power over Amanda, but power over my own life and choices. The apartment began to feel different as her possessions disappeared. I rearranged the furniture, replaced the bedding, and painted the living room a color I had always preferred. These small changes helped erase the constant reminders of her presence. As I worked through the practical aspects of our separation, I also began the harder work of emotional recovery. I reconnected with friends I had neglected while focusing so much energy on my relationship. I threw myself into a work project I had been putting off, channeling my pain into productivity. I started running again, something I had loved before meeting Amanda, but had gradually abandoned as our life together took precedence. I also began therapy, recognizing that the betrayal had shaken my ability to trust and my sense of self-worth. My therapist helped me see that Amanda's deception reflected her character, not my value. She encouraged me to journal about my feelings, to acknowledge the grief without letting it consume me. Throughout these weeks, Amanda continued posting photos from Cancun. The space period she had requested came and went, with no contact from her. The vacation photos stopped after 2 weeks, replaced by posts from her sister's apartment in the city. She was back in Chicago, but had not reached out. I wondered if she was waiting for me to contact her first to beg for her return or demand explanations. I did neither. Instead, I prepared for the inevitable confrontation. I practiced what I would say with my cousin, focusing on remaining calm and factual. I anticipated different scenarios, how she might try to manipulate the situation or shift blame. I rehearsed setting clear boundaries without resorting to insults or emotional outbursts. 20 days after she had walked out of our apartment asking for space, I received a text message. "Coming home tomorrow. We need to talk." I replied simply, "I agree. Let me know when you arrive." The next morning, I watched from the window as her rideshare pulled up to our building. She looked tanned and rested, wearing new clothes I had never seen before. She wheeled a suitcase to the front door and reached into her purse for her keys. I watched as she tried the key in the lock, then tried again. The confusion on her face turned to frustration as she realized her key no longer worked. She looked up at our window, but I had stepped back from view. Then she pulled out her phone. My phone buzzed with her message, "My key is not working." "And where is my car?" I waited 10 minutes before responding, suggesting we meet at the coffee shop around the corner in an hour. A public location seemed safest for what would certainly be a difficult conversation. When I walked into the coffee shop, Amanda was already seated at a corner table, fingers drumming impatiently on the surface. She had changed clothes since her arrival at the apartment, now wearing an outfit I recognized, perhaps trying to trigger familiar feelings. Her expression shifted from anger to practiced charm as I approached. "Corey, what is going on? Why did you change the locks? And where is my car?" She launched into questions, immediately keeping her voice low but intense. I sat down calmly, placing a folder on the table between us. I know about Cancun, Amanda. I know about Jason. I have known since day 3 of your space. Her face froze, the practiced smile faltering. Her eyes darted around as if looking for an escape route before settling back on me. I can explain. It is not what you think. I have seen the photos, read the emails, talked to our friends, I said, my voice steady. You have been in contact with him throughout our relationship. You used our savings to fund this trip. You lied to me about needing space when what you really wanted was a vacation with your ex. She shifted tactics, immediately, tears welling in her eyes. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. I was confused. And Jason reached out at a vulnerable time. But I realized, while I was there, that it is you I want. That is why I came back. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of my resolve. I did not come here to listen to more lies, Amanda. I came to inform you of the arrangements I have made. I have packed your belongings and placed them in a storage unit. I wrote down the address and access code, sliding a paper across the table. The unit is paid for 1 month. After that, you will need to make your own arrangements. But my car, she protested, the tears drying up as quickly as they had appeared. The car was in my name. I sold it to cover our joint debts and the storage unit. The documentation is all here, if you would like to review it. I patted the folder. You had no right. She hissed, anger replacing her attempt at reconciliation. We were not broken up. I just needed space. Space to be with Jason in Cancun. I corrected calmly. Let us be honest with each other finally. Our relationship has been over for a long time, whether you were willing to admit it or not. I deserve better than lies and betrayal, and I have chosen to remove myself from that situation. Her tactics shifted again. What about all we have been through together? 3 years, Corey. You are throwing away 3 years because of one mistake. It was not one mistake, I replied. It was hundreds of choices. Every time you texted him behind my back. Every time you lied about where you were going. Every time you withdrew from our savings account without telling me. Every day in Cancun while I sat at home respecting what I thought was your need for space. Those were all choices you made. The back and forth continued for nearly an hour. She cycled through anger, tears, accusations, and pleas. She claimed I was overreacting, that I was being cruel. That I had clearly never really loved her. When emotional manipulation did not work, she threatened legal action, though the lawyer had assured me I had acted within my rights. Through it all, I maintained my composure, refusing to be baited into an emotional response that would give her an opening. Finally, when it became clear I would not budge, she gathered her purse and stood up. You will regret this, she said, looking down at me. When you calm down and realize what you have thrown away, it will be too late. I looked up at her, feeling a surprising sense of peace. I already regret the 3 years I spent with someone who did not truly value me. But I will not regret choosing self-respect now. Goodbye, Amanda. I watched her walk away, her shoulders stiff with anger. As the door closed behind her, I felt the weight of the past 3 years finally begin to lift. The aftermath was not easy. Amanda attempted to turn friends against me, spinning a story of my unreasonable jealousy and overreaction. Some believed her, particularly those who had kept her secrets. I lost several friendships in the process, but discovered that the truly loyal ones remained. Her parents called me repeatedly, trying to convince me to give her another chance. Her father even showed up at my workplace one afternoon, causing an uncomfortable scene that required security intervention. I maintained my boundaries through it all, refusing to engage in the drama she seemed determined to create. Gradually, the storm subsided. Amanda faded from my life, appearing occasionally on social media but no longer attempting to contact me directly. I heard through mutual friends that she and Jason had officially started dating, only to break up 3 months later amidst rumors of his infidelity. I felt no satisfaction at this news, only a distant sadness for the cycle she seemed trapped in. For my part, the healing process was slow but steady. The first few months were the hardest. I would catch myself reaching for my phone to text her about something funny or interesting only to remember she was no longer part of my life. I dreamed about her regularly, waking with a hollow feeling in my chest, but time did its work. I focused on rebuilding, not just my daily routines but my sense of self. I had allowed my identity to become so intertwined with our relationship that rediscovering who I was without her took conscious effort. I reconnected with old hobbies, took a photography class I had always been interested in, and traveled solo to places we had never visited together. The most difficult part was learning to trust again. Each potential connection felt fraught with risk. I found myself analyzing texts for hidden meanings, questioning innocent explanations. My therapist helped me work through these reactions, teaching me to distinguish between reasonable caution and paralyzing fear. A year after the Cancun incident, I met Natalie at a friend's gallery opening. She was straightforward and genuine, in a way that felt refreshing after the complexity of my relationship with Amanda. When I finally shared my story with her, she listened without judgment, then said simply, "Her loss, my gain." We took things slowly, building a foundation of honesty and clear communication. I learned that real love does not require constant vigilance or detective work. It thrives in transparency and mutual respect. Looking back now, I realize that while the pain was real and intense, it led to necessary growth. I learned to set boundaries, to recognize red flags I had previously ignored, and most importantly, to value myself enough to walk away from situations that diminish rather than enhance my life. If there is one thing I would share from this experience, it is that self-respect is non-negotiable. Love should never come at the expense of your dignity or peace of mind. Sometimes the bravest act of love is not fighting for a relationship, but having the courage to leave one that is no longer serving you. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect yourself in a relationship? Share your story in the comments below. If my experience resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life journeys. Do not forget to share this video with someone who might need to hear this message today. Sometimes, knowing we are not alone in our struggles makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, you always deserve honesty and respect no matter how much you love someone.